get started so we can get out of here a decent time today. We're fortunate this morning to have Sue Petrisin. If you don't know Sue, you're missing a lot. She was the first female international president. Uh, and I met Zoom is a great thing. I met her on Zoom. I do the Let's Talk because it's very informative. CK is usually on there with me, and she has a lot to offer. I applaud people that are past anything that still stay heavily involved in Kiwanis. And Sue is just a superstar in my book. And I haven't, only time I met her is on screen here. So I'll shut up and turn it over to Sue because she's a lot better talker than I am. Sue.
Well, good morning. It is 11 o'clock here, so I know it's only 9 there. You guys are just getting out of bed and get going, but thank you, Governor Don. It's great to be here. And I just thank everybody for being on the program today, because I know that it's a Saturday and many of us, you get to Saturdays and you're like, that's my time to do my thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, Don asked me to talk a little about my goal or my trip as the president of Kiwanis International. And then I'm going to just open it up for questions, but I want to share some of the things I did, because a lot of times you don't get to see the behind the scenes of what a president does, and share some of that. And then I also want to just open it up for questions that we've already heard some of the things that we're doing in Michigan. And the first thing I want to tell you right off the bat is I believe that we are members first. And my responsibility as the president was a responsibility that I held in addition to being a member of Kiwanis. I still continue to volunteer. Right now I'm volunteering at our COVID clinic 12 hours a week, because I can help do registration for our participants who are getting their COVID vaccine. So even though we've gone to work from home, I work from home, we still have an opportunity to do community service. In my professional life, and I like to say my professional life, what supports my habit of being a Kiwanian, because it truly is a habit. I work for Michigan State University, go green, we're with the Spartans, and my job actually is that I manage the school mascot Sparty. So if you happen to see when our basketball team is playing and we're not all sick with COVID and everything else that goes on, if you should see Sparty on TV, chances are I'm like 5 to 10 feet away from him. Whether it's basketball, football, hockey, all the commercial shoots that he does for Buick and Quicken Loans, I am right there. So I literally live the life with Sparty. He does 900 events a year. So I am on the road constantly. I now have an assistant who will help me, because we just can't do the amount of work that he does. He does anywhere during a normal year, anywhere between 6 and 8 weddings a weekend. He attends weekends. We do hire him out, so to say, but it's a self-supporting program for a student, and it's a great job. I kind of fell into it about 7 years ago, and people are like, when are you retiring? I said, why retire when you run around with a school mascot, right? Why retire? So when I was president-elect in Indianapolis, we actually took Sparty to Indianapolis, and he came down and did some stuff on stage, and he did my introduction down there, and it was just amazing to see the response from people. And we actually had a Kiwanis member who was from the Pacific Northwest District who came up to me in tears, and I was, talking to her, and she goes, I'm a Spartan. I have never seen Sparty in person. Just that impact. And it's the same impact that we have as Kiwanis members in stuff that we do around the world. So let me pull up my screen here. Let's see if I can do this. This morning, I let everybody else do screens. So can you see my screen? Let's see here. This is where I need your help. Okay, so let me get my slideshow going from the beginning. So when we started this discussion, it was about, it's a great day to be a Kiwanian. It truly is a great day to be a Kiwanian. And I just want to give you a little of my history. I was the first female president of any global service organization. So before Rotary, before Lions, to serve as president of the organization. What started our new century in 2015, 2016. And this was the board that I served with. Immediate past President John, who's now deceased, was with me. And then you can see the rest. And actually Polly, so two of my board members have actually gone to the Kiwanis Club in the Sky, as we like to say. But great opportunity for me. My mom traveled with me. She was at a lot of my conventions and conferences. And actually, she's known for her cookies. So if anybody has had an opportunity to meet her or to see her, she usually takes cookies everywhere she goes. So she was very disappointed that we couldn't go to convention in Salt Lake City this year or last year because she usually brings a suitcase of cookies to share with everybody. That's her claim to fame. So I'm one of 7 children. I have 17 nieces and nephews. And of course, I live here in Michigan. So some of the things that, we talk about what happened in Kiwanis during the time, as a member of our organization, we truly work for cause and not an applause. We're doing things that help kids all over the world. Now it's been a different year. Yes, we understand that. But deep down, we're all looking for something to do and to keep us going. So during that year, the Kids Need Kiwanis campaign was actually introduced. And that was the year that the Kids Need Kiwanis hashtag was started. And you started to see that marketing program that is literally has been still going on since 2016. So when the marketing committee, we hired a company to actually work with us, Kids Needs Kiwanis was what really resonated with our organization. And if you remember going to Indianapolis in 2016 or 2015, you remember getting off the elevator if you flew in and you saw the board, right? We all did the TikTok board to jump around on it, which was a great ploy for us. So, but Kids Need Kiwanis started then and it's continued and we use it all over. It's been a great campaign for us because that's truly who we are. So as the president and president-elect, I had an opportunity to travel I have now been to every state in the union. And I've also traveled to, I think I hit like 25 districts in Kiwanis International, both in our European Federation and our Asian communities, in our Asian district. And, we had an opportunity many times to be with, actors or actresses or one of our musicians. This was the right-hand pictures when I was in Taiwan. And one of the things that if you ever have an opportunity at a convention or to be at one of their sessions, they are very, very much into the pomp and circumstances of event. This is a new club president. So the governor was there, the other members of their club were there, and they received proclamations from all over the country. The president of Taiwan at the time was actually a Kiwanis member. He actually showed up at their convention. Just came in, they were like, okay, does he know we're coming? Yeah, well, we know he's coming, but he actually showed up at the convention. And then the following year was a female president. She actually showed up at their convention and I was there. So at this point, I'm the speaker, right? I'm the person that doesn't speak Chinese. So I was being translated to. So if you've ever been in a situation where you're in a room where there's interpreters and translators, I was now the person getting English translated to me. And there were probably 3,000 people at this session. And I saw these media people coming in, police. And I said, what's going on? And they said, well, the incoming president, who was a female, the first female they ever had, knew that I was in town and wanted to come see me. And it was like, what? And it was major news across the country. So Kiwanis in Taiwan has a very good reputation, like it does in most countries, but to have the president of your country belong to your organization was quite a recognition. I was out in the Rocky Mountain district where their district is known for, they manage the world's largest pancake festival. It happens for 3 days. I think it's like 30,000 people a day. It's all a free, a donation process. Lines line up for blocks and blocks and blocks. And if there should be an emergency in that state, in the state of Montana, they actually are called upon to feed the volunteers and to feed the communities because the state owns all the equipment, but the Kiwanis Club is large enough that they do all the work. So if there's a natural disaster, they're called upon to do that work. I had an opportunity to testify and I did a lot of lobbying. One of I felt my responsibilities was to get the name of Kiwanis out there. So I was in Washington, D.C. several times because I felt it was my responsibility that our representatives knew who we were and what we were doing. And many of them recognized Kiwanis, and many of our, we actually have some senators and representatives that are Kiwanis members. Of course, their involvement is a little different because of their roles, in the House and stuff, but it was just great to be able to talk to them and they knew who we were and to be able to get in to see people that you never thought we could go see, right? So it's like, oh, well, are they going to let us visit them? But did that several times throughout the trip. Several of the other trips I did, here's a trip actually to where the Kiwanis Club did a fishing tournament for kids, and they took kids from one of the local communities, took them out and taught them how to fish. They had never, these students, the kids had never been to the water before, had never learned how to fish. They taught them how to do this. And this young lady actually had 2 fish on one hook. So that was the excitement part there. This was a trip. I actually had an opportunity to travel to Cambodia. You all, I'm sure are aware of our Eliminate project, the project to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus. I had an opportunity with UNICEF and USAID to actually visit Cambodia, where they were actually doing the immunizations. We went to a community where while we were in vehicles to get there, everybody else that had to get there on their little bikes or on bicycles, or they walked it. And if they did not bring their yellow card to come to that community, they did not get their immunization. People, we joke here about how I walked 3 miles uphill in the snow to get to school, right? They actually walked 3 miles to get an immunization. And they knew when the UNICEF truck came in, and I've actually had a lot of people say, well, why did we do this with UNICEF or USAID, or why didn't we do this on our own? Well, Kiwanis means nothing in those communities. But if we're connected with USAID or UNICEF, they know that. So they're willing to let us into their communities. But the village chief had to go house to house to house, invite the mothers to bring their babies for their immunizations. You see the little blue box right here? That actually was their vaccines for the day. It was refrigerated because they didn't have any electricity in these communities. They came on the little motorbike with that in the back of it, and people knew that they were coming in that day to be there. Great opportunity to see. We actually spent time with the midwives who were doing the training with the mothers and the babies. And I think what was really touching for me was, people had, there were children there that had 2 different shoes on, that had their toes were cut out of the shoes because they didn't have the necessities to do what they needed. But to them, us being there, they had never seen, we took balloons and crayons. They had never seen a balloon. They had never seen a crayon. And we were helping them write their names, of course, through 3 levels of interpretation to get to the right dialect of the country in Cambodia. But just to see the smiles on their faces and to know that when we were done, the efforts that we were doing and the money that we're raising, it was very easy for me to say, you know what, that $1.80 that you're raising is truly making a difference in what we do. There is so much impact, and where now we are in a cycle of doing immunizations here in the United States with COVID. They were waiting in line for hours to do that. And you would just see them come on their bikes, come on their, or walking. And if they didn't have it, they would go home and get the yellow card, because you know what? There was no other yellow card. No electronic records. We have electronic records with medical, none of that stuff was there. This community had no running water, no electricity. Their houses were 8 to 12 feet off the ground because if it flooded the region, and they would have to be able to be dry. One of the gentlemen said, do you want to see the kitchen? We'll show you the kitchen. I said, sure. He goes, turn around. I turned around. There was a wood stove in this wooden structure that had a bed hanging as a hammock, and then a platform that they also slept on with all their utensils below it. And it was just to know that that was their home. We were invited into their home. They were so honored to have someone there that was, helping them and to do that work. Great experience. Some sad things. I saw the kids bathing in the same water as water buffalo. Now, for us, it was shocking, but for them, that was normal. So it was not a thing for them, but just great opportunities to see the work that we were doing. In Malaysia, the Malaysian Kiwanians their district actually started based on Down syndrome. And the facilities that they have built, many of which would rival what we have here in the United States, were built to be able to support individuals with Down syndrome. So when you are born in Malaysia, if you have Down syndrome, the first thing the doctor says to you is Kiwanis. And they literally take care of that child from birth till death. So whether it's at one of their therapy facilities where the children are there, that's the little girl on the right-hand side is at one of their facilities where they teach them, they work with them. So it from day one until death. They also this Care Heart Center on the left-hand side is actually a facility where they help individuals get jobs. They help them identify their hidden talents. Beautiful, amazing artists, amazing, whether it's in music or in art or whatever, painting, crafting, sewing. They help them identify those skills, which in many countries doesn't happen. They just kind of leave them alone. Here we were putting caps on little glue bottles of airplane glue. So the next time you open a little thing of airplane glue, know that that cap may have been put on by someone in Malaysia who was a Down syndrome individual who was working on that, and they were paid to do that. The young lady that was sitting in the dark blue shirt, her whole job was to look at it and make sure it was printed right. And then we put on the caps throughout the day, and that's what they did all day long. One of their facilities, they actually grew mushrooms for the town. They were the community that grew. Many meetings. This was a meeting in Asian communities, typically large rooms, a lot of people, a lot of decor. You can tell the book there was printed in English for me. Many of their sessions are done in English there. Many are not. It just depends on where you are in the country. And then, of course, we had a lot of fun along the way. This is at a European Federation conference. The two colleagues, GCI, which is Junior Chamber, and we developed that partnership that year. And they actually were at the European Federation their banquet that year, and we had a great time. But it was nice to continue to develop that relationship along the way. One of the highlights was I was able to spend a week out in California with the Pasadena Club, where we actually the Rose Float Club. There's actually a Kiwanis club that is dedicated to building the Rose floats. And what's interesting to know is they build not only the Kiwanis float, but they build the Rotary float and the Lions float. And we were able to be behind the scenes helping build the floats. And then, of course, at 4 o'clock in the morning, we got up to get on the parade and to ride that float through the parade that year. Yes.
Your slide is not moving.
It's not? Okay. Did it move then?
Yeah, now it moved.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's the Rose float. Thank you. One of the other things we did was on the left-hand side of that picture is we actually started the foundation of the Nepal district. The Nepal district is growing rapidly and growing quickly. And one of the things we did was to help them get started and grow. And they are now growing very quickly, like many of our Asian countries. In Nepal, community service was not a thing because the government provided for a lot of that. Well, as the government has slowly let some of that go, they do the Kiwanis clubs have picked that up. It's very much an honor to be a member of our clubs and to be involved. The little boy, the little guy on the right, as I call him, Javon, actually is now, he was a student of music in Ontario, Canada. He actually performed at our convention in Toronto that year. He now performs regularly on stage in New York. He's a accomplished musician. He plays the cello. And actually I will have him, he's coming up to be on one of our Kiwanis Let's Talks. But he got his start in Kiwanis because he went to one of the Kiwanis music camps, was sponsored by them. And he has been on Broadway shows. I see pictures of him all the time, either on Broadway shows or singing. Juilliard School, he is accomplished, but it's because of the work that he was involved with Kiwanis that he got going. Papers, this, I believe I was in Japan, many interviews. It was the Japanese, or the person of the day in their country, which was amazing. I get shuffled off this airplane. So you change really quickly in the bathroom because you got to be ready to go. There's no, they don't give you hours because you're on their time zone now. Person of the day, this made the paper. This was the top headline in that day. In Malaysia, we actually had a chance to meet with the former prime minister of Malaysia, who declared that day we were there for Special Needs People Day. She was there with her husband. We actually were at their home, but it was a great honor to be able to be there to represent Kiwanis. And Fatima, who's the lady on the far right hand side next to me, is actually the governor of that district. But we were able to meet with her to talk about the work that Kiwanis was doing with special needs. And then, of course, the annual report came out in 2015-16. There's a full report online that talks about the work that was done, and the fact that every Kiwanis member provides 206 hours of community service a year on average. And when you think of that and you break it down and think about how many hours of service we do and how much money we raise, the impact that we're having in our communities. And it's not only in our communities, but it's communities all around the world. I had an opportunity to go to the JCI Summit. I believe this might have been in Korea. I can't even remember, but these are all executives with JCI and or representatives of their communities. We signed a partnership agreement there with JCI. I know that Junior Chamber, we actually have brought in a few members of Junior Chamber, because once they're 40, they age out of Junior Chamber or JCI, they've actually joined our club. But an opportunity there to as well communicate and build that relationship. One of the highlights of the year was I actually testified in front of the subcommittee on state foreign operations and related programs to request funding on behalf of Kiwanis International from USAID. And this is the only thing I can show you because there were no pictures allowed the day that we did it. They moved us from an office building to the White House, so we were not allowed to take any pictures. So this is my proof that I was there. But we had pictures talking about MNT. And as a result of this, and through all the other work that our lobbyist does at Kiwanis International in Washington, D.C., we did receive funding from the state government. A lot of this money, as well as a lot of the money from the iodine deficiency program, is still written into a lot of their bills. So we still continue to get money from the State Appropriations Committee for iodine deficiency disorder. And we still work with that program as well. So the intent is that this will continue with maternal and neonatal tetanus, because while it was one baby every 11 minutes, now I believe it's down to one baby every 9 minutes because of the funding that we provided. Most of the communities that now that we have, we can't get into in those countries because of war, or they're just unsafe for our UNICEF and our USAID colleagues to get there. So what did I learn? This is something I can take anywhere I go. I learned that you have to be transparent and consistent about your core principles and values. I truly believe that my role is as a member first. And I asked every time I went someplace that we did some type of community service and that we did the work to show what we were doing, to showcase the importance of what we're doing and who we were. And truly, that's where it comes down to. I was very honored to be able to serve as president, but my role truly was as a member of our organization. And I lived that. I remember I was in Europe. I had been in Germany. I got on my phone when I got on the plane and they said, you're no longer going to Michigan. You're going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because they had a flood. And you're going down there to help. We were going down to help restock a food bank and help get them cleaned up and do that kind of stuff. So I said, well, I didn't really have the appropriate clothes. They're like, don't worry about it. We've already talked to your mom. We've already sent them down there. So they took care of everything. The Kiwanis International staff helped get me down there. But I spent time talking to and working. We actually rehabbed a home while we were down there. And to watch the faces of the individuals that were just in tears because they knew they couldn't do that. But we had a group of Kiwanians that were there to rehab that one home. Be genuine in what you do. Be humble. Keep your sense of humor. A lot of times in different countries, the language doesn't translate. And I would always turn my remarks and stuff in ahead of time because we never knew if I was going to use a word that was inappropriate in another country. So I had to have them translated by our staff at Kiwanis International to make sure that nothing I would say just by virtue of what I'm doing. The other thing was I talk with my hands and I had to watch that because different signs that we make in the United States are offensive in other countries. So that was very difficult for me. So I was always somewhat grateful at times that I was behind a podium because otherwise I don't know what I would be saying with my hands. Kiwanis members, no matter where they are amazing people. great people. And everywhere I go, and now as Don has mentioned, all these online programs that we're doing, we are getting people all over. And it's just great to hear the stories and know that there are people in any community that we have that they're wonderful people and they truly care about our kids and our communities. Hands-on service is important. We often joke that Rotary writes the checks, we do the hands-on service, but truly our hands-on service is important. And I know it's been a challenge over the last year for a lot of us, but there have been a lot of clubs that have pivoted, and I hate that word, but that's, you know, the word of the day, that have pivoted to do great work through online type programs, whether it's fundraising, or last night I was on a fundraiser with Rocky Mountain for a jazz festival, a jazz murder mystery, clubs that are, you know, sending gift cards or taking care of communities, you know, the healthcare workers or first responders. The other thing I wanted to say was, you know, don't change your foundation of who you are, change the response, change what you do. We live in Kiwanis on the aspect that kids need Kiwanis. We are here to serve the children of the world. There are many times people would say to me, well, the project we're doing really isn't for kids. I'm like, you know what? You are here to help. We are here to help people. Whether they're a kid at 99 or a kid at 6 months, it doesn't matter. No one, and I often said this, there are no Kiwanis police. We are not going to come to you and say, you can't do that project because it's not kids, or you can't do that because you're not meeting. You need, as a member and as a club, and we do that. We just need to change our response to what we're doing. Thus, what started with our online trading and our education programs. We knew people weren't going to go anywhere. How are we going to make it so they could do it from their home? Whether it was, you know, midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, it didn't matter. Change your response to what you're doing. Don't change the foundation. And of course, think outside the box. I don't know how many times one of the projects that we did in my own club was we used to do a big chicken barbecue, $7,000-$10,000 a year. And we're like, wow, we can't even do a barbecue. What do we do? So we actually had sold the tickets for $15 a piece, which was our normal price. $10 of that ticket was worth $10 at a local restaurant. So we didn't use any chain restaurants. We used 3 of our local restaurants. One is where we met, and said, if you buy a $15 ticket, $5 will go to the Kiwanis Club like it normally does. $10 would normally pay for our barbecue. So we actually took that money, worked with 3 local restaurants to help them stay alive. They gave the ticket. You went in, you bought your meal, you had $10 that was there that the Kiwanis Club provided. The $5 went to our club. We actually made more money doing it that way than we would have on our barbecue. All of our sponsors stayed with us. They're like, you know, it's nobody's fault to do that, so we need to continue to support you. The restaurants loved it because it brought them in income that they hadn't planned on. Our club paid for it, but those were 3 restaurants that we frequent for our events and activities. And it really was a great fundraiser for us. We're now debating, we don't think that we'll be able to do a barbecue in person again this year. But we're thinking that we will probably do the same thing and keep it going. And it's something that could be done any time of year. We just happen to throw it in for a virtual barbecue. We're going to do a virtual, we do a big Easter egg hunt every year. We're going to do a drive-through Easter egg hunt. Because you know what? Those families need to do something. They're looking for stuff to do. So we're going to partner with one of our, get some books. So the kids get books and a virtual, they still get some type of candy. The police will still be there to ring their sirens to get the thing started. We'll do a drive-through. We'll have the Easter bunny and it'll be over. So we're still continuing to do those things. So thinking outside the box. So when I talk about it's a good day to be a Kiwanis member, it's a great day to be in Kiwanis. There is so much opportunity for us and so many things that we can do. And it's thinking outside the box. It's challenging yourself. It's challenging others. It's when we get the opportunity to travel, if you can visit another town or community, check out their Kiwanis Club. Be prepared, however, to do a workshop or to do a speaker, because if their speaker's not there, you may get asked to talk about your own club. But people love to hear that. And anywhere I go that I can talk with Kiwanis members, I do. And I just remember my older brother, many of my brothers and sisters traveled with me throughout my time. And my older brother, John, who actually lives in Texas, in Dallas, said to me, he had gone with me on one of my trips over to Rome. And he said, you know what? He goes, I'm not a Kiwanis member right now, He said, but I feel that I'm truly a part of this Kiwanis family. He said, the way people, we did all the volunteer work, everything that we were doing that time. He's like, I don't feel like I'm an outsider. He goes, Kiwanis is so good about bringing people into the fold. And I think that's really critical as we're doing things, is that we need to bring people into the fold as much as we can, whether it's, getting online and talking to someone. And I know we all have Zoom fatigue and we get through all this, but once a month we split up our club and we call every member of our club. Don, how you doing? Lynn, how you doing? What's going on? Do you need help with something? We do that because that's the connection they have. We're still meeting on Zoom. Many clubs are. We will continue to go to hybrid when our restaurant is ready for us to come back. We'll do hybrid, because what we're finding now is, like, you're able to get speakers, and I know Brian's with us later. You can get a speaker from anywhere, because they don't have to get on an airplane. They don't have to fly. They don't have to go anywhere. They can come in and Zoom in for 20 minutes and you're done. On Thursday, we had the gentleman who talked about conferences and conventions and how to set up your home office for Zoom and stuff like that. He was from Indianapolis. We had, earlier last year, we had the gentleman who wrote the Paradoxical Commandments, which are often attributed to Mother Teresa, the ones that are basically, people will do harm to you, don't, be good to them anyway. He was from Hawaii. He actually Zoomed in from Hawaii. So I reach out to everybody for speakers. Unless they tell me no, but I will tell you that people are looking, Kiwanis clubs are looking for interclubs. They want you to join them. It's great to be on last night's call. I will tell you, we had 8 different districts represented. And people want to be together. We're not able to be together in person, so we're doing this this way. So I'm going to stop my share and open up to questions, things that you want to more know about me. I know I'm a fast speaker, but I know that I get very excited when I talk about Kiwanis, and most people will tell you that. It's a life I live. It's Kiwanis, my family, and my Spartans, and that's truly who I am and what I do. So I got information. I can talk about virtual projects. I can talk about service. The floor is yours.
It looks like CK has a question.
No, I don't. I just gave Sue applause.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, Sue. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's pretty inspirational. What is your number one advice that you give to a new member? What's the number one credo that you tell them about?
I tell new members, don't sit back. Get involved, whether it's volunteering to manage a project, whether it's, I really got my start. I was a Key Club member. I was a Circle K member. I really grew up in the Kiwanis family. So I knew, the different organizations, but I tell, we just brought a new member into my club and I said, don't sit back and wait for someone to ask you. If you have an interest in a project and she's literally taking over a project with our books, say, I want to do that. Don't wait for someone else to ask you, because I will tell you, when I first joined my club and I was a member of the Circle K club that they sponsored, it was 6 years. And I almost said, you know what, I'm done, because we were a very big club. I was the first female. I was young. I didn't have a lot of experience in their minds because they didn't really know. And I said, I just need to figure out a way to get involved, and let's get forward and do that. And if you're a member of your club that's been around, go up and say, hey, what can we do to help you? What are your interests? One thing I always do when I recruit or invite someone to join Kiwanis is I already ask them, where are your interests? What do you see as missing in our community? How can we help you out? Because they may decide that they work with special needs children's, or they want to work at the local cat shelter. There's something for everyone. And that's why I say Kiwanis is, anybody can fit into Kiwanis. If you can't, that means either you're not trying hard enough or your clubs, but you just have to jump in and get involved. And I will tell you, whether it's in leadership, don't let anybody tell you no. I remember my first board meeting as a Kiwanis International trustee. I was told that I should shut up and sit still and not do anything. And I looked at the board and I went, well, guess what? You elected the wrong person then, because that's not going to happen. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm not going to be that way. It's just not the way it's going to happen. I'm here to represent our organization. And as you can tell, I'm very, very passionate about what I do. We're not here for this board sitting at this table. I'm here for the 550,000 members that are sitting out in their communities. So you have to take that jump. And I know a lot of times people are like, well, you know, women are seen as aggressive or blah, blah. I'm like, get over it. Just move on. You know, don't
Thank
let
you
it hold
so
you back.
much.
You're welcome.
Don can tell you I'm aggressive, so.
There you go.
Hey, Sue, this is Harry Shapiro, and I've spoken to you many times at conventions and of
Yes.
course online at some of your meetings before I had a Thursday night meeting that came up at the same time.
Right.
But I came up through the JCs. I was
Yes.
a district director in JCs, and when I was in, for about 4 years in a row, we were trying to raise the age limit from 36 to 40. Of course, the year I aged out, then they made it 40.
Right.
So that was my background. But last night I spoke about being a lieutenant governor and helping the clubs and the individuals come up. And you mentioned about new members and how do you get them involved. And one thing I mentioned last night, and this is something that I like to profess, is bring in a young person, bring in someone younger than you are, and ask that person, what do you think the biggest need is in your community? Find out what that need is. Get that person involved by setting up a committee. Don't put them in charge yet,
Right.
but get them involved, set up a committee and work on that project. They already have their heart in it. After a year, you're going to find out they're going to be in charge. So that's how to get someone involved too.
And I think the other thing we often do is we belong to this organization. I didn't join it. I joined it, but I belong to this organization. I have a vested interest in what we do. It's not about, well, yeah, I belong to, or I joined Kiwanis, right? It's about being a belonger. And that's the one thing I tell people is you belong to this organization. You own part of this. This is responsible as that president of that club or as that lieutenant governor. And I whatever, you do that. But I always said that those things that we do, those information that we have, no matter where it's at, is valuable for anybody. And I would get people that would say, oh my gosh, I drove 40,000 miles last year. Well, don't tell me that. Tell me how much you enjoyed what you were doing. Tell me the impact you made. People are like, how much money did you spend as Kiwanis International president? I don't really know. I will tell you that I didn't spend a lot. But that wasn't what it was about for me. It's like, I was in Malaysia the one trip, and it's amazing the things that I picked up over there. Their communities, because most of their restaurants are locally owned, if you went to their restaurant and you did not have food, or you were, you were homeless, or you were the businessman who left your check or your credit card or your cash on your desk, they would feed you. And you know why that was? Because they had developed a relationship with Kiwanis clubs in the area. The Kiwanis clubs would give them money. They would put it in a bank. On the wall was a picture that said, these people donated money. And when you came in to get your meal, you would sign and record it on that side. People were like, let's do this. So I remember giving them a $20 US $20 bill. They were just in heaven because the exchange rate was so big, but they took care of their people. And someone goes, you gave him $20. I said, you're right. I gave him $20, but it's $20 that I know is translating to 200 in their currency. And how many people am I going to be able to serve? And, I think about, I went out to dinner last night. I think it cost me $30 last night for dinner. That's today's dollars. But there's so many little things you can do like that. I send a lot of thank you notes. I do a lot of text messages. What I have found is that nobody sends how many people write letters anymore, right? But if you get, okay, I saw a hand there, Nilda, good job. But if you get how excited are you to get a note card in the mail? I have a pile of cards right here above my desk. Cards. Happy Heart Day. You are great. I mean, I just keep them all here. When I traveled, I kept cards with me constantly. I would be on an airplane. I remember doing my holiday cards on an airplane once, and I got through security, and the guy goes, "We need to check your bag." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "There's something in here really thick." I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "What is this?" It's all my cards that I wrote to all my friends. And there were boxes because I was doing so many of them. And he goes, "Oh, so you actually wrote?" I said, "Yep, I had a 12-hour flight. What else do I do on a 12-hour flight?" I said, "Sarah, your name's not on the list." But I talked to people on airplanes. I talked to people in communities, and no matter where I went. The exciting part about it for me was, the other thing was, when I travel from Michigan State, which I do a lot of, I always have some Kiwanis gear with me. Same when I travel for Kiwanis, I always have Michigan State gear with me. Everywhere I went, it was I either met a Michigan State person, a Spartan, or I met a Kiwanian. And I just remember traveling with a suitcase that had Sparty dolls and pom-poms in it. And I get to Charles de Gaulle Airport, and this person comes up and she goes, "I'm a Spartan." So we get all excited, right? So here, hold on. I open up my thing and I gave her pom-poms and a Sparty doll. She just said, I did that with Kiwanis stuff. I carried Kiwanis notepads, Kiwanis pens, Kiwanis pencils, little things. It wasn't a lot, but recognizing that someone had that, Kiwanis key tags, little things like that. And I do it even in my own community now. I've always got Kiwanis. Our club gave out a couple thousand bottles of hand sanitizer. I would go into restaurants and drop them off a box of hand sanitizer because you know what? That got my name out there. That got Kiwanis out there. Hello, Mr. Carson. Great to see you, Bob. So sometimes it seems so simple, you know, that you've got some pencils or pens or keychains or whatever. It truly is about connecting with people, and you never know the impact you're going to have on that person 10, 15 years from now. Other questions? BK?
Yes, I have a question. I know how important Kiwanis is worldwide. I know what we've done worldwide. With the current crisis we have going on in the southern of the United States, is Kiwanis taking any action, or are we doing anything with that currently? I know we don't do political, but it just seems like there's so many young kids with this idea of coming across to the United States and walking for such great distances.
I am not aware of anything that Kiwanis International is currently doing with that. And I know that Brian's there may have some other insight with it. Oh, there he is. I'm not aware of anything that the Kiwanis International organization is due. And part of that is because there is so much going on in the world that it's very hard for Kiwanis International to pick one or to focus on one area. So a lot of that actually falls in the local clubs. And I think about the flooding and the fires and all that happens. That truly is managed by the local community. And because you're right, we don't take a political stance. Our job is to help those kids wherever. And if a club can do it, you know, they do it that way. So, you know, Brian might be able to address it, or if any of our international board members, I know we have several past board members on the call. If they have anything from the past year, they may be able to do that.
And by the way, I wanted to say your presentation was very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Sharon.
I have a question. The project you said that you did of selling $15 gift cards, I'd like to have the information of exactly how that works.
Okay. I know that CK put my email address in the chat, but I'll put that in there again as well. Send me an email. I actually have a flyer that we used that a member of our club did, as well as I have the report. I'm waiting for the report from our club on all the details, because believe it or not, we were still trying to balance out the books, but we can tell you what was done in sponsorships, you know, and everybody's like, yeah, I mean, we missed all the camaraderie of being with people, but we still were able to maintain the fundraising of our club.
It looks like Jordan is raising her hand.
Jordan.
I was just asking a question. I wanted to know, I'm a new member and I'm only 19, so I'm trying to see what you recommend or think a person my age can do in leadership roles because I'm trying to find my place in Kiwanis.
Well, congratulations and welcome. That's great to have you with us. Some of the things that you can do are to either lead a project, be on a committee, get involved with a committee where in your club that you can, learn something there. Sometimes newer members, I know a lot of clubs, the newer members board, they may be asked to go on the board right away, but the big thing to do is to find a mentor, to find someone that can work with you to help you understand what's going on in the club, and so that you don't, you're going to make mistakes, but we want people there that are going to help you do that. And if you want to send me an email later, I'd be happy to send you some ideas. That there's some contacts. There's contact. The one thing is there are Kiwanis contacts all over the world that will help you, but getting involved on a committee, helping with a project, even suggesting a project that you may have to your club leadership. Attend a board meeting. A lot of the business of the club is done at the board meeting, but don't hesitate to ask questions or to connect with somebody in your club. Welcome. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about a couple of our other programs that we so on the first Saturday of March. We have a very active Michigan District of Kiwanis webpage. It's in the process of being rebuilt. We're moving forward with that. Actually, we hired a Circle K-er to build it for us. Right? What a better person to do, hire a Circle K-er. So it looks to come out about April 1. The Michigan District has a very active Facebook page as well. I would, if you're not following some of the districts and some of the clubs on Facebook, if you're a Facebook person, do that. I'm not really into Twitter a lot, and I'm not really into Instagram a lot, but I know that some clubs are. The every Saturday member orientation, information to Kenneth and to Don on all the links and all that stuff. You're welcome to join us, whether you're from Michigan or not. It's the basic information. It might be something a lot of clubs I've given the information to that they use. We do the basics, and then we tell you it's time, you got to connect with your club. The third Saturday of every month, we host what's called Kiwanis Cafe. Pretty much focused on Kiwanis topics. We actually have done programs on, we did a program last month on virtual fundraising and, putting the fun in fundraising. So we have a individual in the state of Michigan that we found through one of our partnerships with Kids on the Go, who is a professional fundraiser event planner. We got her to come on and do an hour program on the things to do and what she could help with. And she has offered her service to Kiwanis clubs to help them set up fundraisers to do it virtually, doing in person, but she has volunteered to do that with our group. Laura Hoover from the Kiwanis International Foundation, the Kiwanis Children's Fund, it's still the foundation in my mind, did a program on Put the Fun in Fundraising. We have a program coming up that will talk about service on a Saturday. We're actually going to reaching out to some individuals to do a program here in April to talk about making the next step in leadership. What can you do? How can you move forward? How can you get involved? So we're working on that. Those are the third Saturday every month. And then, of course, every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we host a program called Kiwanis Let's Talk. As they mentioned, the last one was all about Marky's company, who is the company that produces our conventions. They do all the video work and all the audio at conventions. You've seen them running around. They manage all the screens and stuff. He talked about changing to a virtual type of a meeting and things you can look at and things you can do and how to set up your Zoom at home. And those are there. Next week, we have Shandy Longcore, who is a suicide survivor, tried to commit suicide when she was a kid. And she's going to do a program for us next week on the power of one. As they've mentioned, we've done programs on alligator hunting and Cajun cooking. I've got 3 or 4 recommendations today. We've had authors. We've had one thing we have found is public speakers nowadays, because they're not going out into the field, right? They're home. You just got to ask them. And that's what I tell people. I said, the worst they can do is tell me no. In a couple of weeks, we have the Butler basketball team at Butler University in Indianapolis was always a Cinderella team. They now are pretty prominently an NCAA team that makes it to the, Sweet 16, the Final Four, the Elite Eight. We have one of their fundraisers coming on to talk about how they took themselves from a Cinderella team to a Final Four team. Now, someone's like, well, that's sports and that's athletics. They're raising money, right? It's all about raising money and keeping up with things. So those go on Thursday nights. We do record those. They are available on the Michigan District of Kiwanis YouTube page. We also post when they're available on our Facebook page, and we link them off of our website. So there are several places to get them. Of course, you can always reach out to me on Facebook. I can always send you the links, but all that is recorded. I will tell you they're not professionally done. We literally record it and say, here it is. That's beyond me. The fact that I can hit the record button makes it work for me. So, but they're there. You're welcome to use them. We have a couple, I'll give you a couple insiders and then I'll close up. We're actually looking at doing some 7-minute membership sessions that clubs can show for 7 minutes of their club. So we're working on those. And I've had people say to me, why do you do all this? I'm like, you know what? I'm home for one. There are so many people I can reach out to do that work. It's just a matter of coordinating it. We can do it. And it's not my information. It belongs to everybody. So why not share it? So, all right. I will thank Governor Don for allowing me to be with you today. I hope that I'm still sitting. Don't worry. I'm not out of my chair. But I'm happy to share. And even if you want me to come visit your club, just send me an email.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. Now, I'm probably the smartest governor right now in the world. See, you can understand why I invited Sue to speak, because I listen to her program every Thursday, and she's quite an inspiration. So what she said, take her up on it. Let her come to your club and talk. The only way the club's going to go is up. It's not going to go down with her inspiration. Thanks a lot, Sue. I truly appreciate it. And your words are amazing. So let's give her a big hand.
Thank you very much. It's great fun. I love it. And I'm going to stay on to listen to Brian if it's okay with you.
Oh, that's fine.